Could we start off and have you just introduce yourself briefly?
I'm Ed Noonan. I've lived in Helena for 40 years. I worked at Carroll College for 35 of those, ran the Myrna Center for 15. Have been involved in a lot of Helena projects. I'm someone who has planned events of all kinds. And I was elected to the commission about 3 3/4 a year ago.
What do you do for a living currently? Are you retired?
I'm semi-retired. I still teach a class at Carroll and then the city commission work.
Okay. And 2015, when you ran the first time, was that your first time running for elective office?
Yes, it was.
So, Commissioner Noonan, what made you decide to run for a second term on the city commission?
Well, we're in a period of transition. It was coming for a long time as the staff that had been there for years was getting close to retirement. And any transition needs vigilance and hard work. And I often find myself in times of transition. So a lot of my skills are there. And there are some things that I'd like to see move forward that maybe haven't gotten far enough in the time I've been there.
Well, what is it that you see right now as the number one issue facing the city of Helena?
Well, the number one issue is the growth. The city is growing faster than it normally did. The city always grew a little bit, even in bad times, because of the capital and the consistency of that work. But now we're seeing major growth and major change. And it's challenging the city on so many levels. So we have to meet that and try to find reasonable ways to accomplish all the things that we need to do. Another one is that we need to look at ourselves as a valley community. When a city official says that to somebody in the valley, they think, oh no, they want our tax money, but that's not what I mean. We have to have more awareness of the fact that we live in one ecosystem from East Helena out to the north part of the valley into the city. And so we have to be able to see beyond the boundaries to see ourselves as a whole community.
So you alluded to it a little bit. What are some of the issues that you feel haven't received enough attention or haven't been addressed enough so far?
Oh, I think a big one that we're working on is how to simplify the permitting process for building. We're looking at new ways, and there's an app that called Track It that should help people to realize where their requests are going. We're also going to have a My Helena app, which will be implemented, where people can report all kinds of things, from parking violations, street violations. It will keep track of things for them from the time they submit. It'll tell them where it's at. They'll get the information and updates. So all that has yet to happen. We also need to try to find the right way to treat our streets. We've done a good job in the last 2 years of increasing the ability to especially clean snow in the winter, but we probably have more. There's still questions about how we do with burns, how they're dealt with, how we get more efficiency so that it's just not moving snow from street to sidewalks. So all of those things need to be looked at. And we're in the midst of our major trail discussion. And for the Helena community, the importance of the trails are unquestionable. People's lives have been built around the fact that they can go in almost any direction, find a trail. And the popularity of the trails is challenging. And we have yet to see the best solutions for that. Those are some examples, I guess.
What do you feel that the Helena city government is doing well right now, and what do you think needs to be improved on?
I think that the city government is doing much better at being responsive to citizens and to complaints. There were a lot of roadblocks in the past, and often people would have to wait, or it was unclear where their thoughts or concerns was going. So that's getting better, but we have yet to really see the final completion of that in a way that I think will satisfy the citizens. I think the problem in some ways is with this growth, there are so many different problems. So we're trying to deal with affordable housing as well as low income, because housing in Helena is increasing in cost, especially rentals. And so with these new initiatives to build a mix of different types of housing should help that, but we really have to keep at it so that one, we can keep the population central and also allow working people to be able to afford where they stay, as well as the fact that homelessness is very noticeable. And we know there's many people living out of cars. So that creates an instability both for the community and for those people. So we have to work for better answers on that. I think also that the city needs to allow people to be more involved in terms of their own neighborhoods. That we not impose conditions on various neighborhoods without being sure that the neighborhood has defined itself. Helena's always had neighborhoods, but now we become more aware of them, those little pockets where certain things go on. And we can't just legislate or guide that from outside. We need to be sure, and we do work at it, but to make sure that those neighborhoods help define themselves.
What do you think the role of the Helena city government ought to be?
Well, the role of the city government is first and foremost to provide those necessary services that a community needs. Water, wastewater and sewage, streets. So much of the budget is contained just in those items. At the same time, the City Commission has to worry about all of the things that at any given moment need to be addressed. One tough one is the increased drug use that we're more aware of, since a lot of those crimes are more apparent both on TV and in the newspaper. And that's hard, of course, to tackle. We also, we always have to address things like domestic violence. The city attorney's office and the neighborhood center and other organizations are doing a real active job, but so much of this depends on the nonprofits, and I think we have a tendency as a community to go, oh, we'll get the nonprofit to do it because it'll be cheaper or something, which always puts a stress on the nonprofits. And so we always have to try to find ways through grants, through special programs to address the multiple level of those concerns.
Are you supporting, or have you been supported by any of the other candidates running in this election?
Well, Callie Wicks and I have both been tenured have had fundraisers together and support each other.
Whoa, sorry, go ahead.
And there's Emily Dean, I think, is a strong candidate also, and I know of her reputation at Carroll.
What would you say that you have in common with any of these other candidates that you talked about that you're supporting?
Well, I have a different approach. I come from things at a different angle. I look at things in the broad spectrum of what an issue is, and I try to discern the problems that I can see. Some other people might approach it with a lot more specifics about things that they want to see done. I'm an expert in a few areas like nonprofits, like ADA compliance, education, but on a lot of other subjects, I need to listen to the people who know things about and make good judgment. Not that others don't do that, but that's always been more of my way to operate. I've got a good mind and a discerning mind, and often can see things from a different angle. I do come from it from a creative point of view, being an artist throughout my life, and that's different than a lot of other people in the civic arena.
What would you say that you see as your biggest accomplishment in your time on the commission?
I don't know if there's one thing, but I've been able to, I think the job of a city commissioner is to keep poking until you get an answer or pay attention, and I'm very good at that. I don't do it in a abrasive way or that, but I'll keep asking the questions. For instance, when we had the terrible winter 2 years ago, the big snowstorm moved in on New Year's, and it was devastating because there wasn't enough response then, and so it just set up a terrible winter. In early January, when we started to talk about it, it came down to where somebody actually said, well, we'll do better next year. But in the meantime, the streets were ice, people were falling, getting hurt. It was hard to get around, and it's like, no, that's not the right answer. We've got to do something right now. And then, as the winter went on, I really pushed to have a public meeting immediately so we could hear people's concerns. And that helped a lot to set up the changes and the new approaches that came about. I've also been a real advocate for the ADA. I've kind of worked in various worlds like that, and some people don't understand the importance, but I know enough about it and I know enough people to realize we have to keep our eye on that. And so I'm often an advocate and a consistent one that we look at those needs and not just look at things we have to do by law, but things we should do for our citizens.
Is there anything in particular that you feel you haven't accomplished yet that you would like to accomplish in the next 4 years?
Well, I think those are tied to how we bring better service, how we handle our budget in a reasonable way. We did make a major change in this last budget where we had money that was always passed on for year to year as savings, but it could be used at different times, and it was always a little bit unclear just where that was. So by putting away a reserve that can only be touched by a majority of the commission vote, which is sound business practice. I know in the arts it's always, which is hard for art organizations, get that reserve going. Well, the city needed it too. And I think for the first time, people really had a much clearer sense of the budget. And we have to keep doing that, keep explaining it, and keep listening in response to that.
All right, very good. Is there any final message that you would like to leave voters with?
Well, I think at the heart of Helena is the fact that people love this community. They want to be here. No matter what their point of view is, it's a very special place. We're surrounded by the wonder of great lands and wilderness, and we have to translate that love in ways that serves ourselves, the community, our neighbors. So I don't like to lose touch with that. It isn't about the mechanics, it's about the desire to touch a deeper sense of what Helena is and allow more people to thrive and flourish within the city.
All right. All right, we're all done. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay.